Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. We're having a little bit of technical difficulty in getting Zoom to increase the allowance for the conference. So if you know people that aren't able to get in, they'll be able to watch the recorded conference after today. Because we are recording it, we will be posting it on the website, so they will have access to the information. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Today, thank you for joining us. My name is Tracy Watts. I'm the Director in the Office of Community Development, Local Government Assistance. And today we're going to talk about the CDBG CV HVAC Improvements Program that we're going to be accepting applications. So these are the topics that we're going to discuss. We're going to talk about the source of funds for the program, some program-specific information, the submittal process that you have to follow to submit an application to us, and the forms that you'll use during that process. As I said, we are recording the webinar, and we will be posting it on our website as well as the online submittal website that will be used for this program. If you have questions throughout the process today, you can enter those questions into the chat box. We will answer them as we can today, but also written questions should be submitted to our office by emailing Phoenicia Favorite at la.gov. Her address is here on the website, on the PowerPoint presentation. All written questions that are emailed to Phoenicia by 4 p.m. on Friday, January 29th. We will be posting some FAQs onto our website as well as the online application website by February 1st. We will update those FAQs as needed throughout the process, so we encourage you to check back in case that we do need to update those. Okay, the source of funding that is used for the CDBG CV HVAC Improvements Program, CARES Act was signed into law on March 27th of 2020. Various funding was included in the CARES Act for many different programs to prevent, prepare for, and respond to COVID-19. One of those programs was the CDBG program. Funds were appropriated to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and HUD issued a Federal Register notice on August 20th of 2020 regarding the CDBG CV funds to give us some direction on how the funds should be implemented. Louisiana received 3 appropriations of funding from HUD for the CDBG CV funds, a total of $44,336,196. Of that amount, our office is allocating $31 million for the HVAC program. It is being split equally between a large group and a small group. The large group are municipalities or parishes with a population of 10,000 or more, and the small group are municipalities or parishes with a population of under 10,000. The large group has $15,500,000 available, and the small group has $15,500,000 available. The project amounts, these are specific amounts that we are applying to projects. We have a minimum construction amount requirement of $80,000 and a maximum grant amount of $1 million. These are ranges for the amounts allowed for administration. Grants up to $200,000 will be allowed up to $30,000 in administrative costs. Grants from $200,001 to $600,000 will be allowed up to $60,000, and grants from $600,001 to $1 million will be allowed up to a maximum of $100,000 for administrative costs. There are no pre-agreement costs allowed for this program. Costs to develop the application are not allowable. These must be paid using other funds. For design fees, you would need to refer to the engineering fee schedule and policies, which is located on our website, for information concerning eligible design fees. Both administrative and design costs will be reimbursed on a cost reimbursement only. These amounts are established here, or ceiling amounts, and again, are reimbursed based on tasks completed. If the project is funded, no pre-agreement is allowed. All units of general local government in Louisiana are eligible to apply for funding. Entitlement and non-entitlement communities are both eligible in this program. All applicants must have a DUNS number that is actively registered in the SAM.gov system, and applications will be accepted through an online portal, and user IDs will not be issued until a local government has an active DUNS number in the SAM.gov system. For a project to be fundable under the CDBG program, it has to meet two requirements. It has to be an eligible activity, and it also has to meet a national objective. For this program, our eligible activity for priority is public facility improvement. We are also allowing costs for administration as well. Specifically, we are going to be prioritizing HVAC improvements to publicly owned facilities in an effort to reduce the spread of the coronavirus. Eligible facilities, this is a non-exclusive list. So if you do have another facility that you feel like may be eligible, please contact our office to discuss this. Here are the examples that we have. A school, a library, a community center, health unit, police or sheriff substations, senior centers. These are just, as I said, some examples, but it is not an exhaustive list. Eligible facilities. A facility that is otherwise eligible for assistance could be assisted with CDBG funds, even if it is in a multi-use facility. If you have a facility that is mixed use and some of the uses would be eligible and some would not, then there is an option to request partial participation in the CDBG HVAC program. Ineligible facilities. Buildings that are used for the general conduct of government are ineligible. An example of this would be a town hall or a courthouse. A police headquarters building is not eligible, but a substation would be eligible. Remember that if you have a facility that is mixed use, then there may be the potential for some participation in the program. There is a link here to a memo that was issued by HUD regarding the prohibition on buildings that are used for general conduct of government. You can reach out and review that memo to determine if your facility would be applicable. Now, before we mention that there are two requirements for an activity to be fundable, or for a facility to be fundable under our project, under our program, first would be an eligible activity, and second is national objective. Each application must identify the national objective being addressed by the proposed project, and each facility included in the application will have a national objective identified for it. Facilities proposed for HVAC improvements must primarily benefit low and moderate income persons, and HUD defines that as at least 51% of the beneficiaries. Acceptable methods of compliance for national objectives for this program, there are two ways. Through LMA, which is the low and moderate income area benefit, or LMC, which is the limited clientele benefit. For LMA, that is when you have an area where all participants, all persons in an area would be eligible to be serviced by a facility. However, if you had a facility that only served a certain group of persons, then you would look at LMC as your national objective. For area benefit, 51% of the persons included in the identified service area have to be low and moderate income based on HUD summary data or an approved household survey documentation. And now in the next slide, we'll talk a little more about that. And the limited clientele, to use that as a national objective, you have to meet one of the following. The facility serves persons that qualify as one of the following groups: abused children, battered spouses, elderly persons, severely disabled adults, homeless persons, illiterate adults, persons living with AIDS, and or migrant farm workers. You only have to serve one of the groups. You do not have to serve all of the groups at one facility. Or you could have a facility that requires documentation on family size and income in order to ensure that at least 51% of the beneficiaries are of low to moderate income for use of the facility. An example of that would perhaps be a publicly owned daycare that income is verified and they require that 51% of the persons or households that are participating be of low to moderate income. A third way is a facility that is of such a nature and in such a location that it can be concluded that the clients are primarily low to moderate income. If you have a facility such as a Head Start program, then all of the participants in the Head Start program have to go through an income verification. And so that would be of such a nature that it could be concluded that the clients would be primarily low to moderate income. For area benefit, you would need to identify the service area of the facility. Remember, in area benefit, all the persons that are in the service area are eligible to use the facility. You would determine if the service area coincides with census tract or block group or place, meaning a municipality's boundaries, or if you need to conduct a household survey. There is HUD Lowmont summary data. We've provided you with the information to go to the website to get the data. You can look at it as census tract, block groups, or place data. We also have detailed instructions regarding conducting household surveys included in the facility form instructions document that you will be able to access in the system. Each service area, remember, must meet 51% low and moderate income requirements. If you need any assistance regarding conducting a household survey after you have reviewed the instructions in the system, or how to combine data from a survey and a census, if that's required for your project, then you can contact our office and we'll be happy to help you with that. These are some additional requirements that apply to the CDBG CV HVAC program. It is important to note that this list is not all-inclusive, just some things that we wanted to bring to your attention. All applicants, again, must have an active DUNS number that is registered in SAM.gov. You will certify as part of the certification process in the form that no other federal funds have been received by the applicant or a subrecipient, if an applicant has one of those, for the proposed project, resulting in a prohibited duplication of benefits. All applicants cannot be included on the Louisiana Legislative Auditor's non-compliance list at the time of application or at the time of grant award. All applicants must not be currently sanctioned by our office from participating in the LCDBG program. All applicants must complete and provide documentation of citizen participation requirements in accordance with federal regulations. Applicants seeking fees for design professionals must have procured those professionals in accordance with the federal regulations. All awarded projects must be completed within 2 years of award. Documentation of benchmarks will be required and must be met during the implementation of the project. Each application can only include services from one administration and one engineering, or architectural firm. And the applicants applying for the HVAC improvements for publicly owned facilities not owned by the applicant will be required to execute a subrecipient agreement with the public entity that provides the services or owns the facility if it is funded. Sorry about that. Just as a note, as I mentioned before on one of those requirements, applicants are required to follow the procurement requirements as well as the citizen participation requirements for CDBG funding. We are conducting a training opportunity webinar on Thursday at 10 a.m. regarding the procurement of professional services when using CDBG funds, as well as the citizen participation requirements. And you can visit our website to get more information about that. Okay. So professionals who design HVAC systems should consult the American Society of Heating, Refrigerating, and Air Conditioning Engineers guidance for information on ventilation and filtration to help reduce the risks from the virus that causes COVID-19. We have included the link information to the guidelines here so that you can access that information in consideration for your project. Some other items that you would need to consider are asbestos, lead-based paint, and mold. For asbestos, most buildings constructed before the 1980s used asbestos in a variety of ways. It is a hazard when damaged and poses a health threat to building occupants. Therefore, when you're doing renovations, you could require some abatement measures. We have included a link here to additional information at the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality's website for you to review, and we suggest you take that into consideration when developing your application. For lead-based paint, buildings that were built before 1978 are more likely to have lead-based paint. You should consult a certified lead professional before you begin any renovation, repair, or painting projects. It is important that you also take this into consideration. Often these renovations may require those types of improvements. Guidelines, again, can be accessed at the link here that we've provided at the Department of Environmental Quality's website. These things can increase the cost of your project, and that's why we want to bring attention to it right now to you as you develop your application. And finally, mold. It can grow on inside the ducts or in components of your heating and cooling system. You will need to contact a professional to have them recommend remediation efforts if it's necessary. Again, here is a link to more information on the Louisiana Department of Health website about mold and what you may need to consider. For design professionals for project implementation, you would be generating plans and specs. You would need to make sure that it is in compliance within the public bid law as well as CDBG requirements. Assist a grantee with advertising and bidding, with the construction documentation and inspection, with the closeout process. We do have guidelines for plans and specs. There's a link here that is shown that is to our grantee web handbook that would provide you some further information on guidelines for plans and specifications. For administrative professionals project implementation, you would be assisting the applicant with project implementation if funded. We do have a link there to our website, again, that has our handbook that has guidelines for project implementation. The application submittal process. Applications will be submitted through an online portal system, and the website list is there. The portal will be live on February 1st of 2021. Applications will be accepted and reviewed on a first-come, first-served basis until July 9th, 2021, or all funds have been obligated. Application forms and instructions are located in the system. You will download the form and instructions, complete the forms, then upload the completing documents to the system. No additional documentation should be submitted to our office unless requested by a staff member. And if this request is made, please submit the requested information within the time frame provided to you. All users must obtain a user ID from our office. Completed access request forms should be emailed to me at tracy.watts@la.gov. User IDs will be sent via email to the address identified on the completed access forms. There are two roles in the system. There's a local government role and a consultant role. The local government role will be for local government employees or elected officials. That role will only have access to the one local government application that is applicable to them. That role will be allowed to create, edit, and submit the application. A consultant, which would mean an administrative consultant, an engineer, or an architect, would be under the consultant user role. They may have access to multiple local government applications if they're working with them on their application, and they are allowed to create and edit the application, but they are not allowed to submit the application. That strictly comes from the local government user. This is the online access form that you will complete and email to me. You will mark the type of access that you will be using, if you will be a local government or a consultant, engineer, or architect. When you download the form, the instructions are following the form in the same document, so you can review them behind it. The name of the user is entered there, the title of the user, the last four of the Social Security number is required as well for security purposes for our IT department. You would list the mailing address there of the user. You would list the name of the local government applicant. If a consultant is requesting access and they do not have a local government attachment as of yet, they can just leave that blank. The signature of the user would go there and the date. For a local government official, you would put your name at number 11, your title, and then sign it at the bottom and date it. Remember to email me the completed forms. If, as a local government, you want to give access to your application process to a consultant, then you would need to email me at tracy.watts@la.gov to identify the consultant, engineer, or architect that needs access to create or edit your local government application. The email must clearly identify the local government that is for their application that is concerning, the consultant, engineer, or architect that you would like to give access to, who is making the request. That would be the person, the local government employee or elected official, and the title of that person that is making the request. This is what the front-facing screen will look like for the online portal system, and the address is there at the bottom of the screen. You'll see that on that system, we're going to provide you with some documentation. We have the program guidelines there, the user access form that you would need to complete. We will be posting this webinar on that website, as well as the frequently asked questions. Once you log into the system and you click add an application, this is what the application screen will look like. You will enter the amounts that you are requesting under construction amount. If you are using a design professional for CDBG CV funds, then you will put that amount there in design amount. And if you are using CDBG CV funds for an administrative consultant, you would enter that information in the administration amount. Under required documentation, facility and supporting documentation, you will submit different information there, and we're going to go over those components. So again, you have the required documentation section. In that section, you must complete and upload all documentation in the section. Under the facility section, you will complete and upload a package for each facility that you are proposing for HVAC improvements up to the maximum grant amount. And under supporting documentation, you will upload any further documentation that you feel may be needed during the application review. And you will also upload any additional facility packages for OCD to review and consider if any of the facilities that were in the previous section are determined to be ineligible and the approved proposed amount is below the grant maximum. So for instance, if you submitted 10 facility packages for 10 proposed facilities to be improved, and upon our review, we determined that one of those facilities is ineligible, we can then go, if your grant amount would be less than the maximum allowable of $1 million, and review an additional facility's information to determine if we can replace that facility that we have determined is ineligible. Now we're going to go over the application forms that you'll see in the system. They're pretty basic. This is the general information form. All of these documents are in Word format with the exception of one. Again, you'll download the form, complete it, and then upload it into the system. You'll see here we're asking you for basic information for the applicant, your mailing address, your physical address, a contact person at the applicant, so that means at the local government, and their email address. If you have determined that you're going to be hiring an administrative consultant to prepare your application, then we would need you to put that information there so that we can contact them if we have questions. Same would go for engineering or architectural firm. And we ask for their email addresses as well. You would need to identify your legislative districts as well, and then you go into your costs. The chief elected official would need to sign this form, and we would like their email address at the bottom so that we can keep them informed of any review and issues that we have as we review the applications. You would list in the funds section the amount of CV funds you're requesting. If you're putting any local funds into the project, any private funds, state funds, other federal funds, or other funds. All of those would be listed here. The source of the funding would be listed next. And then fund status would be if the funds are available to be used at this time. You're going to be required to provide us proof of publication. This is to meet the citizen participation requirements. You're required to have a public hearing and publish a notice of availability for the application that you intend to submit. You will have to upload an affidavit for the notice of the public hearing as well as the notice of availability. As I mentioned before, we're going to have a training webinar on Thursday, providing detailed training on the citizen participation requirements. So if you're not familiar with those requirements, you may want to attend that as well. A statement of assurances is required. You will download the document from the website. The chief elected official must sign the CDBG CV statement of assurances form, and then you will upload the assigned form to the website. Excuse me. This disclosure report is in the system for you to download. It is set as a PDF fillable form. This is a HUD form that is required for all applicants for CDBG funds. The instructions for completing the form are included in the form document. We have included some additional instructions just to clarify some things for you as you fill out that form. You're required to have a jurisdictional map you will upload into the system. This is a map to show the jurisdiction of the local government. It must show any concentrations of low and mod persons and any concentrations of minority persons. If there are no concentrations, then you must include a statement on the map that says that low and mod persons as well as minority persons are equally dispersed throughout the area. If only low mod is equally dispersed throughout the area, then you would indicate that. If only minorities are equally dispersed throughout the area, you would indicate that. Whatever is the applicable situation for your jurisdiction is how you would identify it on your map. Any facilities that are being proposed for improvements should be identified on the map as well. If there are particular service areas identified for the facility, then please show that too. For the certification form, it must be signed by the chief elected official, and it certifies the following: that the funds are being used to reduce and or respond to COVID-19, that the persons that are receiving the benefits or residing in the service area as described in the application are included in the beneficiary data that you have submitted with your application, that no other funds have been received by the applicant for the proposed project, or that all other funds, included in the application are available for use, and documentation of availability of those funds must be attached. So if you have a need to inject other funds into the project, then those funds need to be available for use, and you need to provide documentation as a separate attachment to this form showing that those funds are available for use. For the facility form, each proposed facility should have a completed facility package. This form, you'll identify the applicant name, the type of facility that you're proposing for improvement, who owns the facility, who operates the facility. Sometimes it can be different. The national objective that you're identifying for the facility. Is it an area project that all persons in an area can take advantage of the services provided in that facility? Or is it a limited clientele project that are only for certain groups of persons? If you have a service area, you need to include your census tract or block groups, including your zip codes with your zip +4 number there. We need a contact person at the facility in case we have any questions, their phone number and email address. Here we're asking as well in number 11 for your activity beneficiary information. This is where we're going to look at how many persons are benefiting in this facility or from this facility being improved. So you'll enter your total persons, you will enter your percentage of low and moderate income persons, then you will list extremely low, low and moderate, as well as your above. You will get your income limits from the HUD website, and again, all of that information is detailed in the instructions of how you can access that. We're going to separately go over the requirements for the project description and the engineer or architect. You will need to attach separate documents to this form before you upload it into the system. Again, remember that if you feel that you need to, you can upload additional facility packages into the supporting documentation section in case any of your previously included facilities were deemed ineligible. For project description, you need to have a narrative that's including a description of your improvements and any other items that need to be addressed as a result of the HVAC system improvements. Remember, we talked about you need to consider asbestos, lead-based paint, mold. If you have any other items that are going to have to be addressed as a result of the improvements to the HVAC system, then you would need to discuss it in your project description. You need to identify the facility and propose for improvements, where the facility is located, the size or capacity or the area that is served by the facility. Include any geographic boundaries if you have an area that's being served by your facility. You want to explain the needs to be addressed by the proposed improvements. Identify the persons being served. Include an explanation of the method that was used to gather the data concerning the person served and the determination of the national objective associated with the facility. So how you came about to those decisions. For the engineer or architect cost estimate, again, you would attach a separate document to the facility form. Include a detailed cost estimate prepared, signed, and stamped by a professional engineer or an architect licensed in the state of Louisiana. You need to make sure that you have all costs of construction, design fees, and any other project costs included on this estimate. It would be a listing of construction items, estimated quantity, unit of measure, unit price, and amount. We also want you to identify all funding sources and uses on this form as well. A maximum of 10% is allowed for construction contingencies. The number of weeks of construction that is anticipated should be included, and remember that all of these projects must be completed within 2 years of award. Design fees should be identified by type in a line item format. Typical items are basic services, resident project representative, investigation and testing. Written justification has to be provided for all design services other than basic services and resident project representative. The justification is a way to explain why your service is needed and how the proposed fee was derived. Again, as we mentioned before, we have a document on our OCD website titled Engineering Fee Schedules and Policies, where you can go and review allowable fees and ceiling amounts for fees. Some resources that we have available for you is our website, and we've listed the address there. HUD Exchange is the HUD Technical Assistance website that provides you with information about all of the HUD funded programs. And again, this is one of them. There's the links there to the CARES Act information on the HUD Exchange. And we also have the information here for the online application system. Again, it will be live on February 1st so that you can access the system at that point. Any questions should be submitted in writing to Phoenicia Favorite at la.gov. It's phoenicia.favorite@la.gov. Again, FAQs will be posted on our CDBG CARES website on Monday, February 1st, in response to any written questions that we received by 4 p.m. on Friday, January 29th. I encourage you all to follow us on Facebook. We put reminders and notifications about programs on the Facebook page. That's an easy way and the quickest way for you to be notified of information. I want to thank you for joining us today, and I also want to remind you that you can access the user request form on our OCD website now before the system has gone live. And again, you can complete that form and email it to me at tracy.watts, it's traci.watts, WATTS @la.gov, so that we can work on getting user IDs issued to you. So thank you for joining us today. Again, submit any written questions that you have, and we look forward to receiving your requests. You have a great day.